I don't have any recollection of any of it. I was just in the most beautiful place ever. Everything was just melting. I was surrounded with luminosity. It felt like feather, soft, very, very soft clouds. Reacquainted with a sense of calmness and peace I did not have here in this lifetime, in this physical body before.
Yes, Efrat, thank you so much for giving us the chance to speak to you today. So Efrat had a pretty remarkable near-death experience for a car crash. So yeah, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about it, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Dani, for having me. My near-death experience happened simultaneously with the car crash. I think there were a lot of signs that something was transpiring and coming up, but as we talked just a few minutes ago, I did not listen to the signs coming my way. All I remember is I brought my toddler to her daycare. My twins were at home with my mom, and my husband was also home. And I remember waiting to leave the village. We live in an area with small villages. I remember it took time. It's like I was waiting, like something had to be matched in terms of time. I turned left, and a few meters later, I felt a boom. I don't remember the car coming at me, the other car losing control and bumping into me. I don't have any recollection of any of it. I was just in the most beautiful place ever. It was a sense of the words that is coming to me today is melting. Everything was just melting. And I was surrounded with luminosity. It felt like feather, soft, very, very soft clouds. Reacquainted with a sense of calmness and peace I did not have here in this lifetime, in this physical body before. It was amazing. Deep, deep, deep stillness. And within that stillness, a bit of music, which I felt like was inner music, and the sound of very, very, very far away bells. Very, very, very soft, like something in the very far background, but there was sound, and beautiful sound. I hear it as I talk about it. I feel it in my cells. I feel the love. And I think that was the most profound gift, was that sense of love within my cells. At some point, I started sensing I was floating forward within that luminosity, within that stillness and calmness, and I just floating forward, and other beings floating, not in any clear organization, but to my right, to my left, floating forward as well. I didn't care about anything. I was just immersed in that experience, and I talk about it, and I'm there again. It's like it's like it's in our energy, but it's so physical. It's embedded in my physical, and it's almost 15 years now. And then other beings started flowing towards us. Those other beings floating towards us, some of them too had a more human form. Some of them had like a more luminous, long forms. There was something that looked like an orb of light. There were all kinds of shapes, I guess. And they were enveloping those who were coming forward with me. And we were floating forward. It was a beautiful embrace. Like there would be one and one, a few on one, and then they would float forward with those they met. I didn't have any understanding at that time that these were souls that ended their lifetime and are now continuing on. This is a later understanding of what happened. It was just a beautiful, something beautiful that I witnessed. Nobody came towards me at first. And at some point, they would float forward, and I was stuck. I couldn't cross an unseen barrier. It wasn't anything that I could see or understand. And again, I did not care. It was so beautiful. I was remembering what I am made of, luminosity and softness all around me. At that point, somebody came towards me, a luminous figure that is, as it came closer, it felt to me like my grandfather. I've shared this before, so I say clearly, I don't know if it was my grandfather or if it was my luminous guidance taking the form of my grandfather so that I would have a recognition. I've met this frequency, because eventually everything is frequency, so are we. I met this frequency so many times before and after that I recognized it. And after a really mutual embrace that confirmed and that I'm okay, that everything is okay, and that I'm in a good place. And my grandfather / guide invited me to what looked like a white shimmering stone balcony. And from that moment on, I was watching. We did not exchange a lot of information, but I was given guidance to bring my attention to that scene or to that scene. I was seeing humans in all kinds of living spaces, lifestyles, mainly families and interactions, and so much confusion, so much confusion about the choices we make, how we live our lives, what we listen to and what we don't listen to. And I saw so much. It felt like days. In earthly time, it was 7-8 minutes top. I don't have like the exact time. And at some point after that, I guess I could see everything I could see, or our time ended. I was given the message, it's not your time yet. It's your time to go back. And as it was given, I understood it. There wasn't any question about it. Although, thinking back, maybe I would have wanted to stay in this beautiful space. And I was already floating backwards and falling back into my bleeding, broken, fatally injured body. From that point on, I was coming in and out, like more of an out-of-body experience, because I couldn't bear being in that broken, physical, painful body. That's a near-death experience specifically.
Thank you so much for sharing. So what's interesting about your story is that you haven't even witnessed the accident. You just found yourself instantly, unexpectedly into this, new realm of awareness. So did you have any perception at all? What's happening here? Am I dead? Did I fall asleep? What were you thinking in that moment in time?
I wasn't thinking about anything. I wasn't aware of what was going on. I was just enjoying where I was. I'm often asked about my daughters. It's not that I didn't care what was happening to them. I wasn't in any awareness to think about anything other than what I was experiencing. Only after I came back, that awareness came up to me. There was somebody who stopped by my car and kept asking, were your daughters with you? Were there kids in the car? Because he saw the infant base connect car seats at the back. And I somehow, I have no idea how I came back into my body. I told him, no kids were here with me. Gave him my home phone number, told him my husband's name. They had the same name. It was interesting. And I was out again. But I was able to do that piece of giving that information. No babies were with me. I have no recollection of the car crash. At some point, I read something that when the incident of death happens very fast, you just pop out, and and when I read that, a while after, it was very calming to me. So, okay, I'm not the only one who didn't experience that exit point, which when we stand by those who are passing, moving on, you can feel it. You can feel that warmth coming out. You can see their energy leave their physical body. I don't have any recollection of those pieces.
So it almost feels as if like you were able to prove that all this thinking, all this swearing, it belongs to the human realm. But when we will pop out of this body eventually, then our true essence will be just to to experience this bliss. We're not going to have any worries whatsoever. All of the judgments, it's actually something that comes
Nothing
from
matters. Yeah, nothing matters. I felt perfect as I was, perfect beyond my human imperfections, perfect. My body was broken, nothing was perfect in what happened. Um, but I felt whole and perfect as I was. No thought. I don't remember. It wasn't that there were no thoughts because I was absorbing a lot of information about humanity, but it was about absorbing, zero judgment, the
Exactly.
zero analysis, nothing.
Yeah. No
I wasn't trying to
opinions.
figure anything out. I was just absorbing. This is how things are. I don't even remember later when I came back to it. I write about those stuff. I feel the compassion within me, but that is even the compassion wasn't a piece of that near-death experience and my experience of what I was watching.
Wow. Okay. Nice. Well, obviously we need to talk about your return. So I'd love to talk about your integration process because I know that people tend to assume that NDErs come out of their experience immediately transformed, and that's obviously not the case. So would you mind sharing with the audience what your process was like?
First, I want to thank you for asking this question, asking me and asking others, because yes, people think that um, it's a magical initiation. It's a magical initiation if you say yes and you go through the hard work that it
Yeah.
takes to become who you are. And usually it's definitely an accelerator of further processes, but there's still a lot of choice within it. At first, the only sign that something significant happened and others experienced were a few of the nurses and the doctors in the hospital commented that I'm terribly nice and understanding and patient in relation to the pain I was in. It didn't make sense. But none of them brought up the topic of near-death experience, which we later I talked to some of them. I know it does come up by those specific individuals, and I know other people do have that experience that the doctor or a nurse brings the topic up. But I didn't even know the name near-death experience.
Right.
It wasn't something I read about or knew about. Um, my physical recovery, I was over almost 2 months in the hospital, then almost over a year in rehabilitation and additional surgeries and everything that happened at home, from home, coming in and out of the hospital. And at that point, I was resting, and my safe space was going back to that moment of the car crash and immersing myself in that luminosity. In a slow integration process, I started listening to the guidance received, seeing visions, expanding from the vision of what I saw, which was kind of repetition. I think I was seeing again those pieces of humanity and my experience again and again and again. I think it was part of me integrating it into my system. And at some point, it was like a crossroad of, am I too fearful to go into those spaces and expand my understanding, or am I more fearful of not exploring them? And obviously, at that point, I understood that it was something really, really connected to who I am, and I have to explore it. And but it wasn't a conscious choice, but a yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, while resting, and not being able to care for my daughters and not do anything, and shedding all those definitions I collected, as we all do, from the do's and don'ts and shoulds of society. Sometime along this process, I noticed that I was mediating healing. Like a friend would tell me that her daughter this and this and this, and I would think about it, and I would see her enveloped in light unintentionally, not knowing what I'm doing. And a day later, that friend would call and ask me, what have you done? And as these things happened more and more frequently without my intention, I realized I really needed a space, a system to learn something. And I went, my choice, people choose different ways. I chose to go and study shamanic practices. I think there was something about the ethics that talked to me. I later learned that ethics in energetic realms is something we need to talk about more. What is ethical? What is not? Asking for permission. These are really, really important topics. And at that point, when I finished that basic training, I went into more advanced training later, and I still study. But it's I think that at that point I was sitting in my physical and in my environment more comfortably, saying, okay, this is what I am. But along this, it took time to tell my parents. I told my husband very quickly what happened, and then my parents, and telling friends, and they most of them just didn't know. People would change the subject. Some of them, they were really fascinated, but they would change the subject. And I do live with a very spiritual community around me, and they would still change the subject. It was too much for people to hear about, and I was still searching for the words to talk about something we do not have words for in none of the human languages. And along that process, I was also, when we're injured or when we're ill, the construct for health is if you go back to work, if you go back to functioning as you have functioned before. So I went back to the academic environment and tried to teach, but I used to be an excellent teacher before that, and I was not able to teach that material at all. And my colleagues were amazing and accepting and patient, but I realized I cannot go back to teaching in an academic environment. I cannot go back to doing research at the time. I need to find a new way, but I needed to go through I never know if this was a detour or I needed to go through this piece to embody that road, that door needs to be closed. That door needs to be put behind me. It's not what I am here to be doing. A lot of colleagues were embracing. A lot of colleagues truly thought I lost my mind completely. They still do. Many still do. Even today, when I have an established practice and clients all over the world, and I'm writing, and they still think I lost it, and it's okay because that's their perspective. I don't know what their soul journey is about, but it means a lot of changes in who we are. And I guess today I'm, here we are in this interview, and I'm talking about my story, and I'm out there, but it wasn't something easy, not for me and not for my close environment. But I do it because I believe it changes how I saw and see raising children. And that's, for me, is really, really important because we have amazing children around us. And if we can change a little bit for them, then that's a blessing for in my NDE. That's the gift that I can bring in, because there are a lot of people who have very spiritually transformative experiences, equally important. And I want to shed that light on parenting, on raising those beautiful humans. Because you don't need to have a near-death experience. You don't need to die in order to walk life as you are. You just need to listen. And I guess you're an example for that. So
I like to think so. Thank you. So if you had a message for the parents out there, which one would that be?
I think that as we have a spiritual experience, definitely like near-death experience, and I talk a lot with other near-death experiencers who had the near-death experience while they were already parents. We realize we're on a journey. We set on a discovery journey of who we are, recalling, returning. As we find out who we are, we fulfill the promises we made to ourselves. And that's the only way we can truly parent our children, because we don't know what we promised them. We don't know why they chose us. We don't know what their soul journey is about. We don't know what our soul journey is about. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We try to show up, But showing up means we have to be our essence, because that's the closest we can get to creating the conditions that they need. And there's such beautiful souls coming down to us and joining us, evolved souls, luminous beings, high frequencies. It's about, and it's not an easy process for parents to unweave all those constructs we built around us, and that help us feel safe, and that help us feel that we feel like we belong. But it's we have to, because these do not fit the kids who are coming. And if we stay in those constructs, that means we're pulling their vibration to us, trying to make them like us, when the direction is actually us imitating their gifts, saying yes to their invitations, exploring and raising our vibration. It's part of something that is happening globally, also in the universe, not just here on Earth. And they give us that reaching hand. And when we fit them into our schedule, when we put all those blocks around them, we don't allow them to be who they are. We don't become who we are supposed to be. We're staying in that. And as an NDE experiencer, I know that's not why we're here. Humanity can be different. Humanity can recall its beauty. And even those very confused ones around us have that spark within them, that if enough of us reflect that high vibration, will change. But those little ones give us that blessing. All we have to do is not interfere, I guess, not interfere, and ask questions not about what we need for them. Ask questions, how can we become? What do we want to communicate? How do we want to walk life? What kind of humans we want to be? And there's a lot about it. But
no, thank you. That's a good summary for sure. I'd be curious to know, so for those skeptics out there, or perhaps people who may have not had a near-death experience, is there anything you recommend them to do to perhaps come to terms with the notion of an afterlife?
I think the notion is not about the afterlife. I think the notion is about us being also energy, not just physical matter. Us being more than what we see with our eyes or communicate with our words or our very evolved, confusing brains. It's, I think, NDEs are not about learning what happens for me, in my perspective, what happens in the afterlife, because we're going to go back home. We've been there, we'll return there. We have those experiences. It's about how we integrate here, because we chose to come here to live on Mother Earth, walk barefoot on Mother Earth with Mother Earth, who feeds us, gives us water, gives us material for shelter, everything. We're here to be here. And the spiritual thing is about being fully and whole here within our body, expressing what I came here to express, you expressing what you came to express, each of us walking their soul's path. It's not about what's going to happen afterwards. It's about living it here. And I think that as people who did not have a near-death experience open up to the energy around them, and there's this little simple game that you play with your hands and feel the energy. There's so many simple exercises that I know that when I offer them to people look at me like, that's kid stuff, right? But then they feel the energy and something changes, because we are here to integrate those pieces, the energy, the physical, and then express our soul's journey in matter, manifesting, having fun here on Earth, experiencing, learning, and serving with our huge high vibrational gifts. So if there anything about skeptics, just ask questions, start asking questions, and explore energy again, here, not about the afterlife. Afterlife is important. It's a reflection that helps us often, choose our values, how we want to walk life, how we want to behave to others, what's important to us, set our priorities. But eventually, again, and with those lenses of how we raise children, we want them to stay true to who they are and true to their soul's journey, especially our children and your kid and other people's children. You know, each one of us, I think that's what all of us want for our children, beyond when we put the shoulds to the side. And I think when you look at it with those eyes, on a shared journey, focusing on a shared journey of parents and children, shared journey of humans on Earth, you have to open your heart. And those who don't, and not everybody can, I think, overcome all the wounding they carry. But it's a lot about choice, because we can all take that one step forward. And it will be different for different people, but as long as we take them, we've done what we can.
Well said. I'd like to go back to the integration 1 second. Is there anything you could recommend for people who've had a near-death experience to help with the integration process?
When people had various powerful spiritual transformative experience or near-death experience approach me, my first recommendation is write down or record what you experienced as soon as possible. And when you recall, and sometimes you recall pieces later, then add those to what you wrote, because as soon as you start reading and listening, it gets confusing. I have this notebook and saying, this happened to me. This, I'm not sure if it happened to me or not, because I know that it came. It's like I read something and suddenly I said, wait, I know I'm reading something that I know I experienced, but I did not have that in my first memory. So in my book, I don't mention those pieces. Yeah. Because I did not have that confident because once we have those experiences, something opens. We're connected. We're connected to a field of experiences. It's very hard to distinguish what is yours and what is others. When are you connected? You learn how to do that, but at first it's very, very challenging. So I think that's the first. Just don't listen to anyone. Just write down and trust what you know. And you know, people that hear us now, they already know they had an experience. They already know something happened to them. I think a lot of people don't understand that something happened, and something is like tickling. And then I would go to meditations and shamanic journeying, because using powerful and right in techniques in meditation and using shamanic journeying as a way of meditating, you can go into those spaces without having to die physically. You can have very similar, powerful experiences, which are like the experience of a near-death experience, but without that piece of a dramatic human event. And I think once we learn those tools, it confirms to us what we know, and it confirms the changes. And what really matters is not if you had this experience or that experience. What really matters is what's happening within you, and where is it? What is the invitation to change in your life? What do you need to transform? What do you need to let go of? And it's a process, and maybe that's another piece really important. No, it's a process. It's not a magical initiation. It is for some, but those are few. And we don't always hear, even when we hear those really amazing instant stories, some of them share the integration, a lot of them don't. Mm-hmm. We don't know what happened behind the scene, and it's all normal. Just take the invitation given to you. That's the most important part, because near-death experiences and any spiritual transformative experience, when you know you had one, you know you had one. It's not something you make up. It's not something you believe in. You know, if you had one or if you don't, or if you didn't, then if you had one, then there is a deep invitation, and you need to delve in and understand what that invitation is for you, first as an individual, but then also for everyone else around you. Because, you know, in my line of work, it's about what are the teachings for parents. My experience wasn't just for me, it was for my whole family. We changed. We are not the parents we would have been if I had not had this experience. my parents changed, my mother-in-law changed, my friends, our community, it rippled to so many people, when I was ready to share more, and by me becoming me, and together with others becoming who they are. It was, but these are ripples that we create. And it'd be a shame to have a second or a third or a fifth near-death experience because you had not embraced that first invitation. And sometimes we can't, and we need that second experience. It's divine interventions reaching out to us, and just trust what you know. If you had one, trust that you had one. It's people know. Sometimes it's hard to grasp with all those constructs around us. So a lot of self-compassion, that's as well.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned the ripple effect, because I have to say the same applies to me. And as a non-experiencer, I have to say the way that I also behave with my son, with also friends, with my dad. He's been very skeptical his whole life, and now he's starting to change in some ways that he thinks about life in general. So yeah, it's very interesting you mentioned that, because it's true. I always thought about NDErs being at the center of attention, but actually the ripple effect is a very real thing, and it does. I think Kenneth Ring mentioned this kind of a benign virus, so to speak, that ripples out. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and it ripples not just in the mental understanding, like you say about your father, that he's less skeptical. My mom often tells me, I completely believe you, but I cannot grasp it with my mind. My father just grasps it in his energy.
Okay.
It's the ripple is often not about what we talk about and our mental understanding or academic perspective. And no offense here, I come from an academic environment as well, but it's about that energetic communication. Because when one person stands in their luminosity, that person walks down the street, and another kid that is not receiving that reflection in their home for whatever justified reason can see that luminosity reflect to them and stay true to who they are a little longer, holding on within the circumstances they're experiencing. It's that communication to our children. We're shifting, we're transforming, we're exploring. And that can happen without that mental understanding of near-death experience, just by people embracing who they are, what they know to be true to them. So and I think that's even the energetic ripple in my experience is much more powerful. If I'm anywhere with a lot of children that have no idea what I'm doing, and not my community, not people that are energetically interacting with us constantly, that happened to me last week. The kids were immediately by me, talking to me, touching me, using me to cleanse all the junk, all the stuff they collect, because it's that ripple of truth that communicates to them. And I know this happens to a lot of people that walk a spiritual path, being aligned, and alignment attracts alignment, and kids are more aligned. So it's everywhere, in everything we do. When we go to the supermarket, everywhere we walk, as our vibration talks to others and communicates. Stay true, do what you need to do, and we get that reflection from others as well. So
That's great. So the next question is probably going to sound a bit obvious to some, but I think it could be very useful for those that perhaps are still learning about these topics. Are you afraid of death these days?
oh no. Death is birth. Death should be celebrated. It is that moment when a soul ended its journey, and is going back home. And I think it's sad that so many humans or souls have to go through human struggles, physical struggles, in order for them to leave their body. Whether it's because they're holding on, or A few benefit from the beautiful lessons of illnesses and being dependent and learning to let others love them and having their priorities straight about what's important and what's not important, which happens in those when our physical becomes weaker. But so that piece is sad, that people suffer on their way to dying. But the actual leaving of the body, I've witnessed it now so many times with others. It's so beautiful. And I always get emotional. I recently lost someone very close to me, and I was dancing. I was just dancing because it was so, so beautiful. I was just happy for that soul that she could finally expand and return and relearn what she is really about: high vibrational, free frequency, love. So death, the suffering that leads to death, is something I wish we could reduce reduce as humans, because some of us do get a lot of lessons within those time frames when we prepare to leave. But the actual death, just beautiful. If I did not have children, I would be willing to die daily. Just make sure that for now I want to return, because I do want to stay here with my daughters, be their parents, be there for them, fulfill the promises I made to myself so that I can fulfill the promises I made to them. But other than that, just, die daily. But as we said earlier, you can experience it in various meditations. It's not 100% the same, but it's very close. And I've also learned that when we walk life aligned to who we are, I call them soul moments. I'm sure other people have other names for them, but it's those moments of alignment between who we are and what needs to happen in that moment. And we just live heaven on earth at that distinct moment. It could be also days and months, but it can be about distinct moments of knowing who we are and listening and aligning ourselves to our truth. And then we have those experiences, what we talk about in the afterlife, the luminosity, the expansion, but here in our body, in our physical, on earth. I try to have as much moments or as much such moments in my days, in my decision making, in my listening to myself. And that's what I guide my daughters and the children and teens I work with, because then we don't need those experiences and recalling through outer experience, like I needed that kick, definitely.
Yeah, I guess so. What's the biggest lesson that you've learned from your near-death experience?
That I'm on a journey, that I'm loved, and so is everybody else. And that means listening and walking life with no judgment, a lot of compassion to others' choices, embracing the invitations, saying yes to them. That's much more than just one.
Oh, of course, of course.
Yeah, but being loved, that it's really is about the essence. People talk about it and you look at them with skepticism, like, what are they talking about? No, it is. And it's not that emotional love that we experience as humans, the various types of relationships we can experience here. It's an essence of being. It's a high frequency of being, which is very, very pure, very expanded.
Yeah, I love that. What's your idea of God these days?
I think just by using this word, we jump into religions. I don't occupy myself with this question about God. I do feel we are all part of something much, much greater than each of us, much, much greater than just Earth. And I have this knowing within me that whatever it is, and however we name it, it's pure and it's beautiful. So partial answer, but yeah.
Good enough for me. All right, Efrat, I have one last question for you that I'd like to ask to all my guests. What's the meaning of life for you?
The meaning of life on earth, the meaning of life in general,
Let's say in general, sure, yeah.
expressing our essence, exploring the expression of our essence. And that happens as part of our life on earth, that happens as part of the afterlife, that happens as part of our exploration of other places in the universe. Here, within a human body, I think it's that exploration with limitations, how to express that huge essence we all are with the limitations of a physical, dense body in societies and cultures that limit what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. So we're here to experience, have fun and enjoy Earth. Earth is a magnificent planet, so magnificent, so beautiful, so caring, so loving, so compassionate. And I think that's a lot of us come here just to experience Earth. It's like this best attraction in the universe, like the most magnificent place you want to go to. When I look at children today, I think a lot of them come here with a mission of helping us, not just for their experience, but with a mission of helping us raise our vibration, our individual vibration, our communities, and that of Earth in general, to fit and align with all the changes that are happening also along other places in the universe and in the universe as a whole. So I think it's the meaning of life for them is also that expression of raising the vibration, expressing who they are, just like we are, but in a more expanded form.
Well, thank you so much, Efrat. Is there any parting message you would like to leave us with today?
Ask questions. Ask questions about everything. Unweave everything you walk with. You might find that you still believe something, but that would be your choice, not because you have to. I think that near-death experience are an accelerator for many of us in that unweaving, the shedding of finding who we are. But this is something that you are an example for. You can do it in many ways. You don't need to die for. So. Yeah. And thank you for having me.
No, thank you. It's been a wonderful conversation. I wish you all the best. And yes, bye for now. Oh, hi there. Well, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to support the IANDS community, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and maybe share with the ones you love. If you're looking for another video to watch, I think this could be a very good one. New episodes out every Friday. And until then, enjoy the stream we all call live and live the love you wish to see in the world. Bye for now.